So I know Halloween is over, but I like to keep it spooky year round. So today's guest is Valerie Brewster. Valerie is a tour guide for Haunted Orange County in their Old Town Orange location. She is a dancer and performance artist with the 13th Floor Entertainment Group, appearing in Delusion and the Los Angeles Haunted Hayride. Valerie has also been featured as a scare actor in the former Disney Plus series The World According to Jeff Goldblum. In this episode, we talk about some of her paranormal experiences from her hometown in New England, in Oregon, and of course along her tour in Old Town Orange. We discuss a few of the most haunted spots in the city, as well as the Victorian-style Chapman University Alumni House, El Ranchito Mexican restaurant, and an old funeral home that I've had my own experience at. For those of you that want to know where this one is located, it's on the corner of North Grand and East Chapman in Orange, and I posted a picture of all three of those locations on my Instagram for a visual just to go along with the stories. When did you first become interested in spooky, the paranormal?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't actually have a moment in time where I had a day where I went, yes, today is the day. But what I like to tell people is that I was born under a full moon at 3:15 in the morning, which, as we all know, is the anti-hour. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I think it's just in my blood. I also grew up in New England, and I think having a real fall definitely put that love in my heart. But in terms of my interest in the paranormal, I feel like I did have a moment where I kind of got into that. And it was around junior year of high school. That was when the show Paranormal State was on TV. I don't know if you remember that, but I was obsessed with it. Do you remember that show? Have you heard of it?
So I heard of it. I never really watched much paranormal TV. I'm kind of weird with some of that. Like the movies I haven't really watched, but I'm super into like the paranormal part.
Totally fair. That
So
was
you were a fan of the show?
I watched it pretty much every day after school. And then after that, I feel like in college, I kind of started reading. I got really into the Amityville story. My mom actually grew up on Long Island and was there, well, not like in Amityville, but she remembered it happening when it was on the news. And so I read all those books in college, and I actually went to a religious university. I was a Mormon and I went to BYU. And I remember going up to one of my religion teachers one day, and I was going to tell him this whole thing about, hey, I'm really interested in ghosts and paranormal. Do you think that that's something I should stay away from? I couldn't even get the sentence out. I just started with, hey, I'm really into the paranormal. And he's like, he literally said, oh, yeah, that's weird. Don't do that. But I kept doing it. And it's died down a little bit in terms of TV and books and things like that, but it was definitely high school and college when I was really into it.
So cool. So it really was like a part of your DNA, like in your blood when you're born at 3:15 in the morning. Do you have any personal ghost stories? Have you been to Amityville? Or any stories from New England or your hometown?
Well, apparently my hometown isn't actually a town, and I didn't learn that until I was an adult. It's a township. It doesn't even show up on the weather app. So nothing really happened in New England. But in terms of my own paranormal experiences, I definitely have a few. The first one is pretty personal, but I actually don't mind sharing it. So my dad passed away suddenly in 2013, and he and I did not have a good relationship. Pretty sure he hated me and he let me know it every day of his life. And it was interesting when he was alive, he had night terrors, pretty intense night terrors, because his dad tried to kill him when he was a child and it really traumatized him. And I never got night terrors until he died. And it was soon thereafter. And I would wake up in the night and I thought I saw a silhouette at the foot of my bed. And it definitely was not a positive presence. And it really affected me. So I ended up going to one of my religious leaders and I told them what I thought was happening. And of course, they brushed me off and laughed about it. But I said, can you just humor me and just do something about it? And so they did all their magical whatever, and it actually stopped. So I don't know if that was paranormal, but for it to just suddenly stop after that seems like it might have been something.
Was it like a one-time thing or did it happen multiple times?
It was a few times. I can't remember exactly how many times, but it definitely happened more than once. And it was the same kind of, I would wake up, I would see a silhouette at the foot of my bed. I felt really uneasy because, a lot of people, when they pass away, they visit family, and usually it's a positive thing. And the people that they're visiting know it. And, oh, there was, my grandmother. I'm not downplaying her or anything. So the fact that it was this darkness, I thought, that's got to be my dad.
Wow. And was it like a sleep paralysis kind of experience?
No, I
It's
was
just
definitely conscious.
okay.
Hmm. But ever since then, I've always had sleep issues, but never suddenly waking up in a panic. Um, and that actually lasted for about 3 years of waking up in a panic. I never did anything crazy. I would just wake up, and sometimes I would go to the bedroom door, and then I would finally kind of come to and then calm down and go back to bed. It hasn't happened since then, so I don't know if it was just kind of a residual thing, but I could go on and on about my dad's death and all the weird. He used to be friends with a psychic, and my mom is friends with her, and she sometimes goes to my mom and says, oh, your husband has visited me and I have to tell you what he said. And as far as we can tell, he's not in a good place. So I shouldn't say that with a smile.
Did the psychic kind of read tell you that information and that's kind of what
Well, let's see. I wasn't actually there. The psychic was talking to my mom, but my mom told me about it. Oh, see, I wish I could remember, but she definitely said that he is feeling abandoned and that everyone has forgotten about him. And that's very much in his character in life. It's like, it's everyone else's problem. I'm perfect. If only everyone could just see the error of their ways. And so my mom definitely feels like it's a manipulation tactic for him to say, oh, I've been abandoned, I've been forgotten about. But the psychic also said that apparently where he is in the spirit realm, that he talks about me a lot in a positive way. And of course, my reaction is, well, okay, too late for that. But it is interesting. Is he trying to somehow make peace with himself, and he realizes what a monster he was and he's trying to make it right? It's a lot to unpack.
right? That's there's a lot of layers there. And do you know what the church did to kind of make um like the darkness go away that you sensed at the beginning of your bed? Was it like a house clearing or do you know what they did?
Well, in the Mormon religion, let's see, how can I do this as reader digesty as possible? In the Mormon religion, the men in the church hold a special power, and I say that in quotations, known as the priesthood, and it's the power to act in God's name. And so I think, if I remember correctly, what they ended up doing was giving me what's called a priesthood blessing, which is basically it was a blessing of protection, and I bless you that whatever's happening will stop and the evil spirits will leave. And it wasn't any kind of physical act where they went to the house and they did anything. It was just a personal thing that they did for me. And whether or not it's a thing, I don't know, but I know that after that things calmed down.
Nice. So do you have any other stories you'd like to share from New England or your hometown before you moved out to California?
Oh, I've lived in 6 different states, so I
Wow.
don't really have a home.
Any other favorite hotspots or cities along the way?
Yes, I tell people this all the time. Astoria, Oregon. Have you ever been to Astoria, Oregon?
No.
So that's where they filmed The Goonies, and they filmed The Ring 2 there, if you remember that hit from the 2000s. And there is something about that town that just gives me the creeps. I went on a little tour of the town about 7 years ago when my brother got married up in Seattle. We took a road trip and we stopped in Astoria and we took a little trolley tour on the coast, right on the shoreline. And from what I remember, they have a big history of course, the brothels and all the fun things that happened there. They had some Shanghai incidents, and they also had a big fire on the side of, and I say the side of the town because the town is literally built on the side of a mountain. And so they had a big fire there. I can't remember when it was, but they had to basically rebuild the town. And when we were driving through, I've been to Astoria a few times, but when we were driving through after my brother had gotten married, and by we, I mean my mom and I, we had stopped for the night at the hotel there in town. And I wanted to go out and drive around because I'm into spooky stuff and paranormal stuff. And I just wanted to see what I could see. And I remember looking out the window of the hotel room, and literally the only lighting that is lighting up that entire town comes from the houses. So there are no street lights, no nothing. And I remember looking out on the side of the mountain, hence the town, and I got this really dark, scary feeling. And I ended up not going to explore anything, which was significant because I'm all about walking through cemeteries and scary movies and all that. But I felt really unsafe venturing out, even just in the car. So if you ever have a chance to go to Astoria, Oregon, I can't exactly say what I'm feeling, but it's a feeling of there's a lot of history there and I don't want to be part of it.
Interesting. Is it close to Portland at all?
It's right on the border of Washington and Oregon. I'm geographically challenged, but if you go through, Seaside is one of the closest towns to. It's right on the Oregon coast, and it's the town right before you go over into Washington. So there's a big, long bridge that connects the two of them. It's a gorgeous drive, so it's just right on the other side.
Nice. Yeah, because I heard of the Shanghai tunnels before, and that was after I went to Portland one time. And besides that, I really didn't know much else about Oregon or haunted spots. So now I'm gonna have to add Astoria to my list of places.
Yes, please do.
Did it feel like alien almost, or was it like just a dark overall feeling?
Just anxiety producing. Where I shouldn't go out there by myself. And the population of Astoria is so small. So I don't think there was any kind of physical danger, but I've always been sensitive to intuition. And I know, I can't explain it, but I know when I have a feeling, I know for a fact that that is truth and I need to listen to it versus my own, like, oh, I don't know. I just know it. And that's the story.
And trusting it is a big part of it too. You know, you can kind of have that feeling, but then your mind tries talking you out of it, which was going to lead me into the next question is if you consider yourself sensitive at all or focus on like your intuition when it comes to the supernatural and things like that.
I don't consider myself sensitive in terms of other people that I've met when they are borderline clairvoyant and they have spirits visiting them. I've never had anything like that, but I was born with a very compassionate heart, and I had a pretty difficult childhood in terms of being bullied and traumatized by awful kids. And of course, having the home life that I had was really hard on me. And so I think that that kind of gave me a light into noticing that in others when someone's really struggling. Or I've always said I'm a friend to the friendless. When I can see someone alone, I'm drawn to that and I go to that person. My motto in life is I would want people to do the things for me that I do for them, if that makes any sense. Like, come sit by me at lunch if I'm by myself, kind of thing. So, and then also with animals, I am a huge animal advocate. So when I see an animal being treated less than equal to a human. I have a real problem with that and I sense it. So I definitely consider myself an empath in terms of when something traumatic happens to another person, I feel that and I cry with them. And I think it just stems from the life that I've had. So I think too, long story long, I think energies of potentially traumatic things kind of resonate with me. Unfortunately, I can't really describe it. I'm still trying to figure it out for myself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and you're able to kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes, like to empathize with them, like you said. And that's really sweet.
Thank you.
Do you notice when you go to haunted places or on your tours, which we'll get into, do you notice sometimes if the energy, even if it's not good or bad, if it's intense, do you pick up on that at all?
On my tours, actually, no. I've been doing them for about 3 years. This is my fourth spooky season. I call that my October time. But I have picked up on other people's reports of the spots that we have been to, and I've noticed a trend that they tend to get amplified in October, and I don't mean that in a cliche way. And also a certain spot I have come to learn has more activity than any other spot on the tour. So that's interesting to me.
Do you ever find yourself reliant and overly dependent on coffee? Personally, I love myself some good caffeine, and it's always a yes to a second or third cup. So often when I drink it a few days straight, I find myself becoming almost addicted to the caffeine hit, not to mention the highs and lows, the crashes, and feeling so dehydrated. Well, recently I made the switch to Magic Mind, the world's first productivity drink. I get all of the amazing benefits of coffee that I love, plus so much more, without all the negative side effects. Magic Mind is a matcha-based energy shot infused with nootropics and adaptogens designed to crush procrastination, brain fog, and fatigue. It's scientifically designed with everything you could want and nothing you don't. And best of all, it's gluten-free, dairy-free, BPA-free, keto, paleo, and vegan-friendly, so it's crafted with everyone in mind. I've been taking it daily for the last 14 mornings, and not only has it improved my energy and focus, but it's become an essential part of my routine. It's packed full with antioxidants and key organic ingredients like lion's mane and ashwagandha that also help to reduce my stress and anxiety. And the best part is that if you're bad at remembering to reorder like me, a monthly subscription option is available with hassle-free delivery right to your door. If you'd like to try this and see the magic for yourself, I have a 20% off discount code for my listeners today. Just go to magicmind.com and use code TIMRODDY, that's one word, for an additional 20% off your purchase. You could say goodbye to those crashes and hello to better memory, focus, and concentration with Magic Mind. So Valerie, you moved to Southern California, and how did you get involved with giving tours for Haunted Orange County?
Well, I have been on all the tours myself as a guest, and at that time, there weren't as many as we have now, but I remember loving them. I love the fact that the tour guides dress up and they show pictures, and it's definitely history mixed in with the ghost stories. And so I had a thought one day, a very deep, profound thought, and it was, wait a second, self, I love an audience. I love talking endlessly. And I'm not saying our guides talk endlessly. I'm saying I love talking endlessly. And I love celebrating Halloween year round and all things spooky. Wouldn't that be a really cool job to have? So, little side tangent, I have been a dancer for almost 30 years now, and I've learned that in the dance business, if you want to get into teaching or performing, you have to actually do the work and email studios and companies and say, hey, I was just wondering if you had any need for a teacher or a sub, or if you were having any auditions. So I kind of took that same approach and I emailed to Haunted Orange County. This was right about summer of 2020, right when everything was popping, and asked them just flat out, do you have any need for a guide? And it turned out that the timing was right because they did, because at the time the Fullerton tour was being developed, and the person who was doing the tour that I do couldn't do the Fullerton tour until they had someone take over for the Orange tour, and which is the tour that I do. And so the director sent me a few bullet points for one of the other tours that we have, the San Juan Capistrano tour. And my task was to research those bullet points and create a story, basically, a script, my own script. And because I'm a performer, I work better with memorization rather than just kind of nonchalantly chatting with someone. It's a rehearsal, it's a performance. And so I memorized the stories. And at the time we had Haunted Orange County was doing the Fairhaven Cemetery tour. And I was invited to come on that tour and basically audition my stories with the directors. And it was the coolest job interview because it was right on top of graves. And I thought, this is the place for me, not to be irreverent for the dead, but we're spooky people. We like that sort of thing. And so I was hired. And then I was given the same bullet points, the same idea for the Orange tour, bullet points and research. And I wrote the script and I memorized it. And I think in answer to your earlier question about sensing things on the tours, unfortunately, I'm so focused, or fortunately, I'm so focused on the performance aspect of saying things articulately and giving them a good show, I guess, for lack of a better term, that maybe I don't pick up on as much as I could if I was just a guest.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And this is a huge shout out to you and to Haunted Orange County because honestly, you guys are like the best tour guides. I have the best time on all of these tours. Every time I do them all, they add a couple more, which I'm so happy about. So it's like I don't, just complete it. Do you have a favorite tour that you've done besides your own
I
or
was gonna
city?
say, well,
I
I am
guess.
biased. Well, I'm actually pretty behind on some of the new tours. So when I was doing the tours, I think it was just Black Star Canyon, San Juan Capistrano, Orange, and was that it? Is that all I went on? We have a lot more now. And again, shout out to our Haunted Orange County. We are still developing tours. I'm not at liberty to say what, but we are expanding and I'm super excited about that. But Black Star Canyon was amazing. Have you been on that tour?
I have, and it's a funny story because the first time traffic was so bad that me and my friend, because we were coming from Los Angeles, and it was rush hour, and we left in plenty of time, but I think that must have been a crash because it took way too long. We couldn't make it, so we had to reschedule for another date, but it was so good. You really gotta like prepare for it because you're like hiking it's like a 3+ hour tour, but it was so cool. I loved it.
Me too. My favorite part about the whole experience is that you can't bring flashlights. So for me, I definitely felt like, okay, are my eyes playing tricks on me? What am I seeing? And that just made the experience even more fun. So whenever somebody asks me, oh, which tour do you recommend? I always recommend the Black Star Canyon tour. And the tour guide is incredible, the truest mountain man you will ever meet. And we all dress up, as I said. And so he dresses like an old miner and yeah, I can say it too. Our guides are just incredible.
They really are. And one of the things that I love most about you guys in Haunted Orange County is, like you said, it is a performance, but there's so much based in like factual information as well as the performance. It's scary, but it's also informative, which I love because it kind of meshes all of this together. So it's just a great experience overall.
Totally. And the same thing that you were saying about the tours, we're always expanding. It's the same thing with my tour. I learn as much from the guests as I teach them. And the tour, since I have started it, my script has totally expanded and adding new things and little tidbits here and there, and even doing my own research and talking with some of the shop owners. And a lot of them are super knowledgeable about the area as well. And I don't want to say you never have the same experience twice. You might if you go on the tour like every weekend, but Now versus if you went on the tour 3 years ago, it's a totally different experience. And I love that about it.
And like you said, I'm sure the information just continues to grow, as people take the tour and they share their experiences with you and like shop owners. Sometimes I feel like, you know, they see that there's a tour there and they're a little bit skeptical, but then maybe they see you a couple times and then they're like, hey, well, this happened or this happened. And then people just feel comfortable sharing it with you.
You know what's really cute, actually? I encourage guests to take pictures on my tour, and two experiences where they came and contacted me later after the fact. And they said, well, I took your advice and I took pictures and I really wanted to show you what I captured. And I think that's so endearing. And in October in Old Town Orange, they have an activity called Treats in the Streets where they shut down the circle and they have vendors and activities and whatnot. So I like to go and walk around there. And 2 years in a row now, I have had people run up to me and say, oh, we went on your tour and it's so good to see you again. And I just have to tell you, what I found, or I didn't know how to contact you, but here I have to show you something. And so I feel like it's a community feeling, and it's really exciting that people remember me in a good way.
So cool. Yeah, that I was so excited when I saw you at Midsummer Scream at the booth.
I remembered you.
Yeah, I was.
There are hundreds of people that come through, but I remembered you and I was so excited to see you.
All right, we'll start talking a little bit about your tour because I do have some questions. I don't want you to give it all away, but there are like some hot spots and things that I'm really excited to chat about. Um, if you want to just speak a little bit, whatever you want to share about the city of Orange, maybe some brief history or any of like the overall like looming stories.
Sure. As I've said, this is scripted. So sometimes out of context, I'm like, well, okay, Kate Mind, work with me. So the town was founded in the 1800s by two attorneys. They worked together, they had some money, and they found an area with a lot of space and room, and they wanted to create a town. And the people that did it are LaSalle and Chapman. I won't say their first names, but that is my favorite reveal of the tour of, oh, it's all coming together. And then the circle was made, the fountain was made, and the town kind of expanded from there. The town of Orange was originally called Richland, California, but since the city was growing, they needed to create a post office. And that's when they ran into a little snafu and found out that, oops, there's already a Richland in California. So we have to change the name. So I've heard a few different theories of how the name of Orange was determined. I'm actually friends with somebody who used to do historical tours of Old Town Orange, just pure historical tours. And he told me that it was named after the hometown of one of the founders. But again, I've heard different stories, so who knows what the real answer is. But that's kind of how the town was made. I don't know
How
what else
did
to say.
you choose the locations on your tour? How did you get the information to know that a place is haunted?
I have to give credit to one of the co-founders of Haunted Orange County. He is actually a historian. He's a history teacher. So he, along with another person, created Haunted Orange County, and he's the tour developer. So he went out and did the 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 bulk of the research. And as far as I know, and please don't come after me if I'm incorrect for anyone listening to this, is that he went to the archives at the library, talked with the historians over at the library in Orange, and kind of went from there and interviewed different business owners. As far as I know, as well, we got permission to cover the spots that we cover. And I get asked a lot, okay, so what else is haunted? Is that the only thing that's haunted? And I'll tell them that, well, not everybody gave their permission because they were afraid that it would take away from the business. So there is, I'm sure, a lot more out there than what we cover. But that's how I got my history. Like I said, the bullet points. And so I went online myself and found stories of firsthand interviews from shop owners, newspaper articles, things like that. And then in terms of continuing to develop it on my own, I also have interviewed shop owners, and guests have shared things with me as well, because I get a lot of Orange locals that have lived there their whole lives, and they share stories about, oh, I remember when that used to be that, and oh, yes, that was a thing. And so that's kind of exciting.
So cool. So a few of the locations I wanted to touch on. The first one, which I think was the creepiest, is it was a funeral home at one point. It's the very first stop on your tour. If you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that, I was actually scrolling through my pictures because I went on your tour. It was July of 2022, so last July. And I was going through just looking at the different places we stopped. And this one was definitely the creepiest. I just got a weird vibe there. I was with my friend Seth, and we started there, like I said. And then after your tour, we went back and we just took some pictures of it. After hearing the story and the history, we just wanted to kind of just explore. And that's the one that kind of stood out to us. And it was weird because not only did the energy feel heavy, but we were taking like some pictures around the back, around the sides. And then all of a sudden, both of our phones started acting weird when we were going closer up to the door, the window. And our camera apps both just stopped working. And we tried, like, closing them, reopening, and they just wouldn't work. So it was so creepy. We went over, I mean, we left after that. And then finally I got back in my car and everything was fine, but it's like something had happened there.
Oh, I love that you're sharing that with me. Well, um, funny story, when I was developing that segment of the tour, I came across a lot of information about the man who used to own that house before it turned into a funeral home in the 20s. And I came across some very distressing things that he did in his life. He was not a good person. And when I gave my initial script to the tour developer for him to look over, I had that part in there, which I won't say what it is, but I had that in there. And he said, basically words to the effect of, I would take that out. And I think I remember him saying that he's actually buried over at a local cemetery, and he was worried that if I shared that information, that some unhappy people might try to go there and deface his grave. So I think a lot of that energy is probably the energy that he brought into that house. And then you take the fact that it was a funeral home, and how many people were there, and you mix all that energy into it. And of course, I can't say for sure, but I think that's probably a combination of everything. But I've had guests that bring their EMF detectors. I'm
Yep.
such a yep, okay.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. And they always go crazy at that spot. So you are not alone.
And do you happen to know any of the history of the building, like what else it was? Because it looked like it was kind of sectioned off, and there may have been three floors. I know that there was a basement. And after, when I got home, I was curious, so I researched it a little bit more. And there's a video on YouTube of like a paranormal investigation of someone going in and kind of walking around, and it looks really creepy. In the basement, it looks like there was at one point a gym. It also looked like it could have been like a sauna with like a pool, but it was like half finished. It was really creepy. So I just didn't know if you knew any of the history of what else the building was or what it is now.
I love that you did that. It's yeah. So in the 80s it was turned into office suites. And so they did section off the rooms. So you are correct in that. And I've actually been in that house. There was someone that took me around and showed me the house basically, and told me some of the paranormal things that he's witnessed. And that place is massive. I mean, when you look at it from the outside, of course you go, yeah, that's huge, but It is unbelievably gigantic. And the basement, yeah. So the basement was a wine cellar slash jacuzzi room slash, oh, I can't even remember what else, but the walls in the basement are, they look like cave walls. There are these uneven, rocky, black, bizarre walls, and there is a hot tub still in the basement, but it is covered with wood. And there's a door in there that says, and there's a plaque on the door that says something like, on this spot, on this date, absolutely nothing happened. And I took a picture of it because it cracked me up. But the wine, oh, please forgive me. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't know anything about it. The wine racks, am I saying that right? They're still on the wall. And fun fact, when it is super rainy outside, the basement also floods. So I don't know what the architect of the basement was going through at the time, but I think he wanted to create kind of like a party atmosphere, and you would never think that that's down there. It's so bizarre, but really cool.
Yeah, really creepy. And even just looking through the windows from what we could see, it just looked weird. Like you said, the rock walls. It also looked like there was some wooden sections. And I remember that you mentioned the front porch underneath. If you want to explain, there was like that door that they would transport the coffins, right?
Yes, yes. So the when it was being converted from a funeral home into what it is now, all the freezers were downstairs, and it cost too much money to bring them up. So rather than bringing the freezers up, they pushed them to the front of the house in the basement, and that's where the porch is. So the porch that you see at the front of the house was not there originally. It was made so that the freezers had a place to go. And I had been doing the tour for about 6 months, maybe. And I was talking to my friend who used to do the historical tours, and he was telling me what he knew about all the spots. It was kind of back and forth of, okay, I go here. What can you tell me about this place? And he said, yeah, look on the side of the porch. You'll see a square that's been covered up with bricks. That used to be the casket door. And that is where the caskets would be put. It was like a little coffin chute, basically, because it was a lot easier to put them there rather than having to carry them through the house, down the stairs, and into the basement. So the next time I went on a tour, I looked on the side of the porch, and sure enough, I saw it, and it is the exact size of a casket. There's no way it could be anything else. It's like, how have I not ever noticed that before?
And it's creepy. When I was looking through my pictures today, I had taken a picture of that, and there's like one rose that's like just in the picture, like right in front of it.
What?
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
send it to you. It was really creepy.
please do. That's just perfect. Oh, I love it.
So, do you have any other hotspots or favorite locations that you'd like to mention
On the tour?
on the tour? Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I
See,
have
I'm
two
an
more that I want to bring up
oversharer.
after. Yeah, I don't want you to share too much. I do want to ask you about the Chapman house, the Chapman alumni house.
Yes, that's actually the one I was going to bring up. So I won't say anything about what it was, but I will say that I have had a few clairvoyants on the tour, and they were on separate tours. But after that house, they almost couldn't continue the tour. The energy and the feelings were so intense. They were very overwhelmed, and they had to take a break. They ended up staying on the tour the whole time. So that is significant to me. And just this spooky season, I actually learned a lot more about this house and the spirits that are in the house. I have said that there are a few that we know of, but I have met some people that one person used to be neighbors with the former owner, and the owner would tell her stories. And there is a story that I tell on the tour, and I phrase it at that spot. I phrase it in a specific way. Well, I learned just last month that the way that I phrase it is not actually what happened. And I'm a little on the fence of saying what really happened or just kind of keeping it the way it is. But fun fact, I had some Chapman employees on my tour, and they told me some of the things that happened to them in that house when they worked there. And they invited me to go inside, which I've never been
Nice.
inside. So I think sometime soon we're going to coordinate and I'll get to go inside for the first time and see what happens.
And for those listening, are you able to describe the house a little bit? Is it Victorian style?
Yes, you can't miss it. It's on the corner on a street, and it is a Victorian style house. I want to say it's kind of an olivey greenhouse. And it used to be a restaurant. And so a lot of locals know it as the restaurant. And side note too, when we approach the house, so many people under their breath say either, "Oh, I knew it," or "yes," or "oh no." So people know it's there. You can't miss it.
Was anyone murdered there, or did they?
I don't know if anyone was murdered there, but I have heard from two different sources now that there was a suicide in that house under pretty unfortunate circumstances. And that's what I'm on the fence about. Well, now I've told the world about calling it an accident versus a suicide.
Because I do remember there was something with someone falling, right? Falling over the
That's the
side.
one. Yep.
And were the psychics able to pick up anything on your tour?
There was one, she actually ran up to me, kind of startled me a little bit as we were continuing to walk. And she sensed the presence of the elderly woman that I speak about that's in the house. And she, and forgive me, this was a few years ago, so I can't remember the specifics. But what I do remember is that if you've seen the house, there's kind of an arch on the side with flowers kind of growing on it. And she was describing a bunch of people that she could see sitting there underneath the arch. And she said something about they're still there, they're still sitting there. And I told that story terribly. I can't really remember, but I remember that it made quite an impact on this guest. And she almost couldn't continue.
You know what they use it as today?
It is an alumni house. So I've also heard from a few different sources that if you are a graduate of Chapman, you can stay the night there. And I hope to learn, maybe there's a part two. I hope to learn when I'm there next time and with the Chapman employees and ask them what it's utilized as on a daily basis because I don't know.
Yeah. You'll have to let me know because I remember that you said that on your tour, and I actually know someone who graduated from Chapman who's an alumni. So
Are you telling me you're gonna have a sleepover?
if they can bring a +1, I really want to go. I tried telling her about it, and we'll see. I just brought it up a couple times. I don't know if she was crazy about it, but we'll see.
I would be.
I think it
I
would be
just
cool.
I keep learning more and more about that place, and I don't know why it is so wild, but that's probably the most intense spot. And just a quick little tangent, the last stop that we go to is a restaurant, Mexican restaurant. And on the tour, I have had many guests experience things while I'm speaking. And it always happens in October. And that's why I mentioned earlier about all the things happening in October. I don't think anything crazy happened this year, but the other years that I've done it, stuff has always happened at that restaurant.
And I noticed too when we were there, it was the last stop, but it was really dark in that area too. It's almost like those lights on the outside of that restaurant are the only thing that you can see. Um, and were some of the experiences outside as you were giving the tour, or were they inside, maybe if they were eating before or after the tour?
They were outside because it's interesting that you mentioned the lights. It is in a pretty quiet area. And sometimes in October, we have two tours in one night. And back in the day, I say that as if I've been doing this my whole life, but a lot of the time, the second tour would end kind of late. And by that point, all the lights in the restaurant are off. Even the security lights are off. So it is pitch black in that restaurant. And there are no cars in front of it. There are no people walking around. It's totally deserted and dark and amazing. And there have been people that have seen shadows going along the front of the building. There was a guest who was recording the building and she showed it to me afterward, and you can see an orb floating around up in the sky in between the two highest peaks of the building, and she was holding the camera super still, so I don't know what could have caused it. But those are the outside things. I won't give away all the fun stories, but it's always fun that things happen under my watch.
Is there one spot on your tour that you are like most creeped out by?
Well, I have my favorite spot, which is also the creepiest spot. So what does that say about me? But it is a place that was a mortuary at one point, because you and I and all of the spooky listeners out there know that in the Victorian era, death was everywhere. There was a mortuary on every corner, especially shout out to the Santa Ana tour, mortuaries everywhere in downtown Santa Ana. And so my favorite spot was a former mortuary. And it is said that when people would come through the town, just drifters, anonymous drifters, and they would die, they would be put in the windows of that building to try to advertise, hey, does anybody know this person? And the newest thing that I've added on the tour is that this still happens sometimes. It did, at least as of 20 years ago when we moved to one of my hometowns. They had found someone dead, and my mom told me she was watching the news one morning and they put his picture on the news, dead, to see if anybody knew who he was.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's just crazy. You're walking around one day and there's just a dead person and hanging out.
So they just have them kind of in the window. Do they dress them up? And like, do people know that they're dead?
Yes, because it would bring in a crowd, and salesmen would use that to their advantage. They'd sell snacks outside, as far as I've been told, and it was a show, and they would just be propped up. I don't know if they were put in different clothes, because I know now it's a very expensive process to do any kind of embalming. Not everybody gets an autopsy. So I have a feeling they probably didn't go out of their way to try to dress them up, but who knows? Maybe if they knew it would bring in a crowd, they would try to doll them up and make
Yeah.
some money off of it.
Interesting. Are there any other experiences that some of your guests have had along your tour,
Hmm.
or anything that just comes to mind?
Oh my goodness, so many. A lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but there have been a few people who have felt physical touches on tours, whether it's someone they feel bumping into them or tugging on a sleeve or um, poking them, breathing down their neck. They've had physical sensations. A lot of my guests have seen figures in windows, and they're not on the same tour. So that's like the point of all of my rambling is when people tell me the same exact thing on separate tours, it validates everything for me that this is real.
Isn't that the best?
It is.
Okay, so I also wanted to touch a little bit on some of the fun things that you did for Halloween. Do you have any like go-to spots that you went to? I know that you were busy with your tour, I'm sure, but is there anything fun that you were able to fit in, or any like seasonal things that you do every year?
Well, Halloween means everything to me. And before I started doing the tours, I went all out with fitting in as many spooky things as I could. But now that I'm busy and I'm grateful for it, spooky season kind of uh, is put on hold for me. But I was able to do only one spooky thing. And it was the Anaheim Fall Festival. They have a parade at night I think it's the Saturday right before Halloween. I couldn't go to the parade, but I did go to the daytime thing and got my picture taken with some of the floats, got to do some crafts. I am a sucker for a good craft. So I got some of that, got to dress up, got my pumpkin chai. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was something. And I
Yeah,
do
that's
also have a giant list of movies that I watch, and I'm happy to report, world, I got every single movie done on my list.
oh, there you go. That's impressive. Yeah, I think this year I focused on just all the Chucky movies because I had never seen them all before. So I wanted to like just, hone in on one and then just watch them all straight. So that was my like movie accomplishment.
I saw your costume. It was amazing.
Oh, thank
I
you.
tip my hat to you.
Thank you. So, what does the future look like for you? Do you have any projects that you're working on or any upcoming tours?
Well, I have a tour this Saturday, so I don't know when this is going to come out, but we do run year round. A lot of people are surprised that we actually run year round. So if you want to have a spooky good time during Christmas season, holiday season, everything season, come on my tours. You can look us up on Haunted Orange County. I'm Old Town Orange. I would love to have you and talk your ear off because you know I will. In terms of my own personal goals, I mentioned earlier that I'm a dancer. I am actually going to apply to graduate school, and that is something that I'm excited for, but also terrified about because I've been out of college now for 10 years and I've been teaching dance for 8. And I always told myself, when the time is right to go to grad school, I'll feel it and I'll know it. And the time has come. So that's on my list. And then, as we all know, it's also Nutcracker season. So I am going to be debuting my dream role of Dewdrop Fairy in the Waltz of the Flowers for Nutcracker. And also in my other dance company, we're doing rehearsals for our big show that's in July. So we have some time for that. But just dancing, getting back to yoga because I've been so busy with tours and turning my focus to dance.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about Haunted Orange County is the year-round tours. Because for people like us, we have to try to squeeze it into like 4 or 6 weeks, and it's just not going to happen. So I'm glad that it's year-round because you're always looking for something spooky.
I love that about us too.
I
And
just
like I said, we're expanding and we have a brand new one, Haunted Hollywood Boulevard. That's our newest one. The tour guide does magic tricks the whole way, and it's such a fun time. You don't want to miss it.
I have to do that, and then the Pasadena one is fairly new too, right?
Yes, unfortunately, I haven't been able to go on that one yet just because of my schedule, but that one is always the first one to sell out. So they must be doing something right over there. Yeah, do it.
I'm so excited they're expanding. I just have a couple few rapid fire questions if you want to answer those, and then we'll get wrapped up. Do you have a favorite dream location that you'd love to check out, like a spooky spot?
I have a few. Astoria, Oregon, even though I said I'm terrified of it, I'll just have to bring someone with me. I would love to go to New Orleans. I ask guests all the time where they have been on ghost tours, and all the people that talk about New Orleans, it makes my heart want to go there. And of course, Salem, Massachusetts, because come on, it's spooky.
And you might have already answered this, the scariest encounter that you've had or the place?
Actually, it's a spooky story I didn't tell. Should I tell that just really quickly?
Yeah, if you have a second, I'd love to.
Yeah, if well, I have all the time in the world. Like I
Oh,
said, I talk forever.
I want to
But
hear.
it was on that same road trip that I took up to Washington for my brother's wedding. And my mom and I were driving through the night because we didn't want to pay for another hotel. And I was driving. And as I've mentioned, I have sleep troubles. So me falling asleep at the wheel, never going to happen. I need, darkness and fans and earplugs and melatonin and it's a whole show. So my mom was asleep in the passenger seat and I was driving, and we were on a stretch in the middle of nowhere, and of course it was at 3 a.m. and I don't care who you are, the 3 a.m. hour is the anti hour and I will die on that hill. So it was 3 a.m. and I was the only car on the street or the road. And all of a sudden, in the back windshield, I saw a big bright light in the sky. And I couldn't hear anything like it was a helicopter or anything. It was quiet. And the light came down so close to the car that I thought it was going to hit it. And I let out a shriek and I woke my mom up and I told her what happened. And she thought, "Oh, are you sure you weren't falling asleep?" And I was adamant, like, you know me and you know that I can't sleep anyway. So it was not me falling asleep. I don't know what it was, but it terrified me because I thought it was going to hit the car. And then it just went away. Did I pull over? No. I waited until 4 or 5 in the morning. But as long as it's 3 in the morning, I am staying in the car and on the road.
Oh, that's wild. Well, Valerie, thank you so much. I loved chatting with you. If you want to share some of your social media links or how people can follow you or book one of your tours.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, this was a blast, and I am honored that you chose me.
Of
This is
course.
going to be a long one. So you can find our Facebook page, Haunted Orange County, and you can also find us on Instagram, Haunted Orange County, at Haunted Orange County. I'm not an influencer or an expert at all. In terms of my own Instagram, I am Brewv, BREWV, as in Valerie, with 3 E's, EEE. Brewv, all one word. So you can find spooky things. I celebrate Halloween year round, so you'll always find spooky stuff on there.
Yeah, we love it. And I'll link it below so it's all spelled out so everyone will find it too.
Thank you. Yep. Go to our website, Haunted Orange County. I believe my tour is the first one up on the website. I'm just saying, Old Town Orange, but please check out all our tours. We are a great bunch of people. I'm very
Yeah.
lucky.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.